telephonically or by Zoom. If you would like to participate in the meeting, you can participate via the following options. The first way is to view the meeting live on Spectrum 22 or online at youtube.com/City of Gardena. The second way to participate is prior to the meeting, you can email the Deputy City Clerk at bromero@cityofgardena.org by 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting and write public comments in the subject line. Comments will be read into the record up to the time limit of 3 minutes. The third way to participate during the meeting is via the Zoom webinar. So to join the meeting via the internet, or you can do it by phone, the address is https://us02web.zoom.us/j/89029789464. The phone number is area code 669-900-9128, and the meeting ID number is 890-2978-9664. If you wish to speak live on a specific agenda item during the meeting, you may use the raise your hand feature during the item you wish to speak on. For non-agenda items, you will be allowed to speak during oral communications. And during a public hearing, you will be allowed to speak when the mayor opens the public hearing meeting. Members of the public wishing to address the city council will be given 3 minutes to speak. I'd also like to remind everybody that if you'd like to speak in an item, please make sure you raise your hand ahead of time. Once the council is taking up a vote, we will not take any more comments at that time. Let's see, the City of Gardena thanks you in advance for helping us to take all the precautions and helping to prevent the spreading of the COVID-19 virus. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, it'll be led by Stephanie Telez and Erica Shintaku. So if our two pledgers are on, there they go. You guys can go ahead and take over now. And immediately following that, we'll have our invocation by our Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Excuse me for the background noise, but I'll introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Telez. I am a senior at Gardena High School, and this fall I'm going to be graduating and attending UCI. And then I'll let Erica go ahead.
My name is Erica Shintaku. I attend San Pedro High School, and on the fall, I'll be attending Cal State San Jose.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so thank you for having us on. And so I would like to all the participants to place their right hand over their heart. Okay, we can begin, Erica. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to
the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
If you guys can, thank you. If you guys can remain on until after the invocation, Mayor Pro Tem, if you don't mind leading us in tonight's invocation.
A pleasure, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Let's pray. Father, we come to you tonight, and we just thank you for your continued progress in the battle over COVID. We pray that you will be able to eliminate this terrible, evil virus, and we pray that you will continue to fight for us and give us hope. Father, we pray for our children, and we hope that they will continue to attend school in the classroom, even though there are some issues of trust. Please, Father, allow them to understand this is the best for them. And we pray for our educators that they will continue to be strong and be an example to our children to inspire them to want to be together again. Father, we continue to pray for those in desperation and anxious about tomorrow. And we pray that they understand that there will be a tomorrow full of things of the past, but even better. Father, we pray for our nation, and we pray that peace will be in order of the day, and that we can all together as one make our nation the greatest of all. Father, we also pray for our law enforcement community. We pray for those 2 deaths of officers in the past 2 weeks. We pray for Officer Jimmy Inn of Stockton PD and Officer Luca Benedetti of San Luis Obispo PD that gave their lives to protect their community and ours. We pray for their families and the law enforcement community as they mourn. Father, we just pray for wisdom, patience, love, and continued hope as we, the City Council, make positive and sound decisions for our community. So, Father, we just continue to ask for your mercy and your blessings, and for your Son and his sake we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much. So if we can go back to our pledges for a moment. Tonight, the Pledge of Allegiance was led by Stephanie Teles, who's in the 12th grade, and Erica Shintaku, who's in the 12th grade. Both Stephanie and Erica are high school seniors, as they mentioned earlier. And just side note, congratulations on your acceptance into UCI as well as Cal State San Jose. That's an amazing accomplishment. So congratulations to you guys on both of that. Those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Stephanie attends Gardena High School, Erica attends San Pedro High School. We want to thank you guys for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. You guys did a great job. Good luck on all your future endeavors. And, you know, I've had the pleasure of watching Erica just grow up. I've known her for years. And it's just great seeing you and Stephanie just growing to just wonderful young ladies. So we wish you well here. And again, we thank you tonight for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please give them a round of applause. Okay, thank you. And also I'd like to thank Mayor Pro Tem for leading us in tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. That was a very, very nice prayer tonight that you led us in.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pleasure.
Thank you. So next we're going to move on here to proclamations. The first one here is Public Works Week. This proclamation reads as follows, and I believe we're going to have Alan Rigg, who will be accepting the proclamation. He is our new Public Works Director. So I'm going to read it as follows. It says, whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life and well-being of the people of Gardena. Whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public work professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, and who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings and other structures and facilities essential for citizens. And whereas it is the public's interest for Gardena citizens and civic leaders to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works and Canadian Public Works Associations. Now, therefore, I, Tasha Serta, Mayor of the City of Gardena, California, do hereby proclaim May 16 through May 22nd, 2021 to be National Public Works Week. And in the City of Gardena, we call upon all citizens and civic organizations to join in activities, events, and ceremonies dedicated to pay tribute to our public work professionals, engineers, managers, and employees to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protect our national health, safety, and quality of life, which so appropriately reflect the 2020 theme, Public Works, Stronger Together. So accepting this is our new Public Works Director, Mr. Alan Riggs. Mr. Riggs, would you like to say anything?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. On behalf of the staff of the Public Works Department, we'd like to thank you for the proclamation and for continued support of our efforts. As you mentioned, the theme of the American Public Works Association Public Works Week is Stronger Together, which not only defines our department, but the City of Gardena as well. I'd like to invite all of you to our Public Works Lunch. It'll be this next Thursday, the 20th, at the Public Works Yard at noon, and there's no need to RSVP. I'd like to thank you very much, and that would conclude my remarks.
Okay, thank you very much. And we really appreciate all of our public works people out there. They're sometimes the first person a lot of our community residents meet firsthand. I think you guys do a great job and just being out there and just representing the City of Gardena. So please thank all of the employees in that department for our entire City Council.
Will do, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have another proclamation for the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, May 2021. Americans who trace their ancestry to Asia and the Pacific Islands have contributed much to our city, our state, and our nation. According to the 2019 U.S. Census data, the Asian American and Pacific Islanders communities comprise of over 25% of the City of Gardena's population. To honor and contribute their achievements and contributions that generations of Asian American Pacific Islanders have made to American history, society, and culture, Congress, by Public Law 102-45, permanently designated the month of May each year as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. This year's theme by the Federal Asian Pacific American Council, who represents Asian American and Pacific Islanders employees in the federal and District of Columbia governments, is Advancing Leaders Through Purpose-Driven Service. The theme is the start of the new theme series for 2021 through 2024, highlighting the efforts in advancing leaders. Their values and commitment to family and community have helped shape and strengthen America. These citizens speak many languages, honor countless traditions, and practice different faiths, but they are bound by a shared commitment to freedom and liberty. So we proclaim May 2021 to be Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And in the city of Gardena, we call upon residents to recognize significant cultural, economic leadership, and empowerment impact of the citizens of the Asian American and Pacific Islander heritage on this nation and state, and the vital role they have played in shaping the cultural diversity of this community. And okay, that's for that one. We have two more proclamations here. The next one is Safety Seat Checkup Week. May 16th through May 22nd, 2021 is Safety Seat Checkup Week. The number one preventable cause of death and injury involving children and young adults is the automotive collision. More than 90 child passengers under the age of 15 are killed and more than 12,000 injured in automobile collisions in California each year. More than 90% of child safety seats are used incorrectly, and up to 71% of small children killed in vehicle crashes would be alive today if they had properly been restrained in child safety and booster seats. The state of California requires that all occupants ride restrained properly in safety seats and safety belts with children in the backseat until at least the age of 8. Safety Seat Checkup Week is May 16th through May 22nd. It's sponsored and supported jointly by the California Office of Traffic Safety, Torrance Fire Department, Toyota Motor North America, and Safety Belt Seat USA. So we proclaim May 16th through May 22nd to be Safety Seat Checkup Week. And we urge all Gardena citizens to make use of resources available to prevent all passengers, especially innocent children, from suffering unnecessary tragic injury or death as a result of traffic accidents. And then the last proclamation is Provider Appreciation Month here. And we have a video. I'm going to ask if the video can be played first, and then I'll read the proclamation. Nice. Very good. So here's the proclamation. It reads as follows. Provider Appreciation Day, which is May 7th, 2021. National Providers Appreciation Day is observed every Friday before Mother's Day, and this year it falls on May 7th. On this day, we celebrate all family child care providers. Providers Appreciation Day was established in 1995 by Sue Williamson, the past president of the National Association of Family Child Care. And this special day has been celebrated each year after since established. The city of Gardena is pleased to have 23 providers that are part of the Gardena Family Child Care Program. These 23 providers currently serve 190 children, representing 130 families. They are licensed by the state and provide child care services in their home. On this day, we celebrate and honor all of the work that child care providers do every day for parents and families across the country. The COVID-19 crisis has highlighted even more the importance of child care for children, working parents, and employers. These 23 Gardena providers completely transformed their program to follow the county health guidelines and diligently work to keep their child care environment clean and safe. We must acknowledge the essential workforce family child care providers represent and honor their continued commitment to their work. So we proclaim May 7, 2021 to be Provider Appreciation Day in the city of Gardena and call upon all residents to recognize family child care providers for their significant and important work provided to many families. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on to appointments. Does any member of the council have any appointments to be made to any committees, commissions, or boards at this time? No? Okay.
None, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to our consent calendar. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public that wishes to speak on any consent calendar items?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay. Does any member of the council have any questions in regards to any items they'd like to discuss separately?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor.
Okay, which item?
Item 8F, second reading ordinance number 1828.
Okay. Does any other member have any items they'd like to discuss separately? Okay, with that being said, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item number 8F at this time?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Henderson and a second by Councilmember Cascadian. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascadian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, so we're moving on to the excluded consent items. That's item number 8F. Councilwoman, the question you had?
I had just a couple. With regard, so as I understand it, this ordinance is essentially for the billboard. And the development is, the resolutions for the development is all tied into that. Is that, am I reading that correctly?
Madam Mayor, this, and council members, this ordinance amends chapter 1858 of the municipal code relating to the digital billboards. It amends the zoning map of the city to change the zoning from I think it's a commercial designation to the GTOD specific plan. It approves the specific plan itself that guides the development of the of that area. And it also approves the development agreement with DINCAL 4 relating to the development of the apartment complex. So it accomplishes all those things.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because last meeting we voted on them separately. And so that's why I had the question, because this time it's all rolled into one. And the last time we took them one by one. So that was why.
The last meeting were two separate resolutions. One was approving the environmental impact report for the general plan amendment and all of these actions tonight. And then the second action resolution you took at the last meeting was to change the land use designation from general commercial to specific plan so that the zoning would then be consistent with it. And general plan amendments are done by resolution. Zone changes are done by ordinance.
And the ordinance was for the digital billboard. That was the last one.
That's part of what's in the ordinance, yes.
All right, I was just curious. Okay, and I just had another question. As I was reading through it, I thought I read that that the city gets 8% of the display time and 50% of the unsold time. About how much is 8% of display time? How much is that? I was just, does anybody have a? Only because I was when you read the whole thing, it looked like it would have been a whole lot more, but it seemed that and only 50% of the unsold time.
Councilmember Francis, we do have the applicant, Josh Fassbinder, on, and if Becky could move him over, I think he can answer. I see his hand is raised on that, so
All right,
if
thank
you
you.
could let him speak, then he can give you the answer.
All right.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, Josh, thank you.
In 15 to 30 seconds, you can see that very quickly, there will be a number of opportunities per hour to run multiple ads. I mean, quite frankly, probably more than the city will actually have capacity to do. And then these billboards typically run somewhere in the 80 to 85% from a leased, kind of rented out capacity. So then you'd have 15% of that. So the way that we agreed to it is you'd have at a minimum the 8%, which is again 4 minutes per hour when you look at, again, the 15 to 30 second ads, and then you would have any unused time, 50% of that.
So I won't belabor the point, but it sounds like about 32 minutes per day.
Per day, and then each ad is only 15 seconds. So again, depending on how that's broken up, you're not going to have one advertiser that's going to take 5 minutes, if that makes sense. You'll have the opportunity to have multiple advertisers and different, services being within that 32 minutes a day.
Okay, and I just had one more question. I was looking at it again, and there was something about assignment and assigner agreement. And so does that mean that the developer can sell the project to someone else at any point during the whole process? Does that make that available? I'm just curious as to.
I'm happy to answer, Lisa, unless you want to. That maybe is a legal question.
Legally, yes, they can. That's a standard provision of most agreements. It's in every development agreement I've ever seen in any city. I do believe, and again, Josh can speak a little bit more to that, that they have indicated that this is a family business, and I don't think they have an intention of selling it, but I let Josh speak on that.
Yeah, you are correct. We do not. Again, very typical of development agreements, and this will run with the property. So making sure that, again, under a circumstance where we were to sell or our position were to change, these conditions would still, be required to be met by, future owners of the property to the city's benefit.
Exactly. We're in the exact same position no matter who owns the property.
Yes, okay. I just had just two more. I promise it's just two more questions. There was one I was reading because I was under the impression that to encourage tenants to take public transportation, that they would get, well, it said when they signed the lease agreement, after I read it again, it said they would get a one-time bus pass. But I understand, I was kind of under the impression that would be more regular and maybe a monthly bus pass if they didn't take up a parking space, rent a parking space, and chose to use public transportation. So it's just a one-time at the signing of the lease agreement, they would get a one-time bus pass.
It's a one-time, 1 month bus pass. And I think that's for the first year or 2 years of the building's operation.
It's the first 2 years, and you are correct. It is 1 month for every lease that gets signed. And the intent behind this is not to be a reliance upon the trolley or the pass, but to provide education and awareness that it is available to residents so that hopefully after that month, they will continue using that service because of its proximity, availability, et cetera. So the intent here is to make sure that we're, as part of our welcome package to new residents here, we're informing them of all of these services and providing, again, that transit pass for a month. We've done this in other markets, in San Diego specifically, and it's been successful as an educational awareness tool. And then we've got other transportation demand management measures that are incorporated within the project that hopefully, again, will continue to push, other alternative modes of transportation that are going to be very available to residents of this project.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Okay, if not, can I get a motion to approve item number 8.4?
So moved.
8F, I'll second.
I'm sorry, 8F. 8F.
Yeah,
Ooh, I'm sorry, that was,
8F. I move.
you
I
moved?
second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
No,
and Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay. Moving on. Next item here. Just of notation under the Planning and Environmental Quality Commission action sheet. There was a meeting on May 4th, 2021. It's just a receive and file and no action is needed. Next, we're going to move on to oral communications. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public wish to speak at this time?
I do not see any hands up, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we're going to move on to departmental items. First item up is item number 11A. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 11A is to approve the contract for animal sheltering services with the Society of the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, LA, or SPC ALA. In April 2018, LA County informed all contracted cities of the potential rate increases for animal control services for the next 6 fiscal years. At the direction of the city manager, staff explored alternatives for field services and animal housing services. Staff identified that significant savings could be seen for the city while maintaining or improving the current level of customer service by utilizing city staff to provide in-house services such as low priority field services, licensing, and canvassing. In June 2019, City Council approved the staff recommendation for the city to provide these services while continuing to contract with LA County for animal housing and veterinary care services. Staff also reached out to several local agencies to explore the potential for animal housing and veterinary services, including Southeast Area Animal Control Authority, or SIACA, Long Beach, and SPC ALA. Staff stayed in contact with SPC ALA and began negotiations in August of 2020 to explore the potential of contracting animal sheltering and veterinary care services at the same time that the LA County Board of Supervisors announced the new billing rate methodology, which would take effect in July 2021. The estimated cost for the fiscal year 2021-2022 for LA County would be $233,334, while the estimated cost for SPC ALA would be $45,720. To give you an example of why there's a vast difference between the two costs, LA County would charge the city to pick up a dead animal, regardless of size. It doesn't matter if it's a big dog or a pigeon, which is $213 per animal. Our cost, the new cost, would be $45,720 for SPCLA, simply because the new cost for that would be $300. I'm sorry, $150 per animal, live animal, and then for dead animals, it's just $10 per animal. So in summary, The city would save an estimated $187,614 by contracting with SBC ALA for animal sheltering services for fiscal year 2021-2022. This rate would be recalculated by SBC ALA each fiscal year, and the cost will be determined by the number of animals serviced. Staff will budget for the anticipated cost for services in the city's budget. The proposal was also reviewed and approved by the Finance Committee on April 29, 2021 meeting. The financial impact is to the general fund, $47,000 for fiscal year 2021-2022. Additional funds added for potential workshops and potential excess holdings. What's required tonight is to approve the contract.
Okay, thank you. Before we open it up for any questions from the council, Madam City Clerk, do we have any speakers at this time?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Mr. Ahmed.
Okay, go
has
ahead.
hand-
Go ahead.
Oh, yes. Hi, good afternoon, City Council and City Mayor. So this is an excellent contract. I was just wondering if we can even see if we can, lock in this price. I mean, this price is too good. I mean, if we can even do like a 2-year or 3-year, maybe get a discount, like a 5% discount possibly, and also have like adoption clinic, possibly maybe like a free adoption clinic, possibly like twice a year. But this is an excellent contract. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, are there any more speakers?
And no, Madam Mayor. No, Madam Mayor, we do not have any other speakers on this.
Okay. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments at this time?
Madam Mayor, I have one question.
Go ahead.
Mr. City Manager, in regards to the SLA with SPCLA, is it tight enough so our community, when they make a call, they understand what the turnaround time is when they come out to pick up an animal?
Yes, actually, our staff is doing the pickups.
Okay.
SPC ALA is the housing of the animals. Let's say, we pick them up, we have somewhere to bring them. But the actual pickups is done by our city staff. And then the backup for our staff, which we don't anticipate to have any issues having to utilize a backup, would be LA County, which again, if that happens, then it reverts back to the rate that they're charging, which is exorbitant. So we don't anticipate using them. We intend to use our staff to do the animal pickups.
And we have all the protective equipment for our staff, so they won't run the risk of disease or anything, or bites or anything like that?
That's correct, sir. So our staff is fully equipped as if they were employed by LA County or any of these agencies that do animal pickups.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Henderson, you must have missed that social media, one of our animal guys picking up that huge iguana with the huge glove on his hand. Something I would never do. So
Yeah, that
I'm really
iguana
glad
would've
to
just
know.
been- Yeah, it
they
had
have
just
that
been running
equipment.
around. Absolutely, it had just been running around.
That one looked pretty ferocious. It actually looked like a dinosaur instead of an iguana. Are there any more questions or comments?
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is this, so this is just for sheltering animals. So is this a no-kill shelter?
That is correct. SPCLA is a no-kill shelter. They do everything that they can to get the animals that brought there to be adopted. And that's one of the things that we really looked at, is to be, compassion to animals, these stray animals. This is someone's pet that they potentially have lost. We don't want any term like around 7 to 10 days and then they just terminate them. So fortunately, SPC ALA is a no-kill shelter, and that is why they're very, very popular. It's very, very hard to get in. As far as there is actually a waiting period, wait list to get in, especially now that LA County is charging as such a exorbitant amount of fees. Everybody just wants to join SPC ALA, and we're fortunate enough to be able to get in.
Yeah, so I was just wondering how they managed to keep the cost down, so keep the cost so low. It was amazing. Right.
It's a nonprofit, and so they rely heavily on donations. So they're not running a business, so everything is the cost is also at a minimum. They're not paying these pension costs.
Yeah, and this one's located right next door in Hawthorne.
I believe so. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, well, with that being said, this is going to be a huge savings for us, which I think is definitely a good move that we're going in here. Can I get a motion to approve the contract here?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilwoman Francis and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next up is item number 12A, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 12A is the review of sites inventory for the 2021-2029 sixth cycle housing element update. The crucial step in the housing element update process is compiling and reviewing the site's inventory. Site's inventory is a list of appropriate and likely available properties that can accommodate enough residential housing to meet the city's regional housing needs allocation within 8 years. Staff will present the sites and proposed densities for various areas in the city for your review, comments, questions, and recommendations. At this point, there is no financial impact. What's required is to review, take public testimony, discuss this item, and then give staff direction.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to turn this over to to Greg and Amanda, and they will take over at this point with the presentation, as well as manage the comments at this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're going to have a slide presentation, but we're also going to do this interactively. So there will be opportunities for participation from the audience as well as from the council. What we did with the Planning Commission was we allowed the audience to comment and make suggestions first when we got to the maps, and then we took from the Planning Commission. In this case, we'll do the City Council before we move on to the next map. We have 5 maps that we're going to go through when we get to that part of the presentation. And if it's okay with you, Madam Mayor, we'll follow the same protocol here. Okay, thank you. All right, so next slide, please. Okay, so just introducing your staff. I'm Greg McLean. I'm the Interim Community Development Director. We also have on the call tonight Amanda Acuna and Brian Ramirez, who are the Senior Planner and our intern, respectively. They've been working on this for months. They have the most knowledge of this, so they'll be running the maps portion of this presentation. Also, Lisa Kranitz, our Assistant City Attorney, is on the call, or on the Zoom call. Our consultants are not here for this portion, but they will be here for the more important parts that come later on, and that's Veronica Tam from Veronica Tam Associates. She's actually the one preparing the housing element and will be working very hard after tonight, hopefully. And Starla Barker and Amanda Tropiano are from De Novo Planning Group. They're doing the environmental work, and they'll be working very hard after tonight as well. Next. So what is this about? The sites inventory. This is an important part of the housing element. It's sort of like an index of all the properties that we have identified that could accommodate the number that we need for our RHNA. And again, RHNA is the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. That was the number given to us. It's over 5,000 this time around. So what that means is over the next 8 years, we have to well, let me rephrase that. We have to provide enough realistic housing sites in the city that over the next 8 years, we could see that number of housing units be built. So we're looking for over 5,000 potential. The presentation we're going to give you tonight is modified a little bit from what we saw at the Planning Commission. We've taken the comments that we received from the public and from the Planning Commission, and we've incorporated it into this presentation tonight. So the maps will be a little bit different. Okay, next. So here's our allocation. The column and the second column says allocation. The number that we're trying to achieve is 5,735 dwelling units. That's the number that was given to the city of Gardena. All of the cities in California were given a different number, but that's our number. That's the one we have to achieve. Now, when we submit our housing element, the Department of Housing and Community Development will sift through our inventory, and they may kick out some of them. They may decide this one's not really reasonable, or this one's not feasible, or this one's not realistic for whatever reason. And so we want to put a buffer in there, especially for the very low and low income properties. So we're applying a 20% buffer on those, and that'll get us up to the number of over 6,000. So that's our goal. We want to be able to submit over 6,000. The more we submit, the better off we'll be. Okay, next. So just a refresher, we're applying 5 strategies in our housing element. We've got projects that are already in the pipeline that will be finished during the housing element period, which will be counted in the next housing element, not the current one. That's good. We have underdeveloped and vacant residential properties that we are identifying in the inventory. We're also addressing a religious overlay. So there are church properties that can be developed with housing, and that's been made possible by new law. And so we'll hopefully see some of that developed. There's also some owners of properties that are commercial or industrial that have expressed interest. So we will be looking at those properties especially. And then the last one, the one we're focusing on tonight, is housing overlays. And it says and rezoning. Actually, we're not proposing any rezoning at this point, but it's a possibility. But after the Planning Commission meeting, we're not considering rezoning at this time. Okay. So we're going to go on and discuss housing overlays. So before we do that, I'd like to describe what we're talking about here. This is a section of the city of Gardena, and this is a map showing zones. So all the different colors represent different zones. And I want to show, like, if you'll click, Amanda, that's an example of an area where we have overlays already. These are the mixed use overlay areas. So these have been in place for several years. And red in this map represents commercial. So all of these along Western and along Rosecrans are red. That means they're commercial properties. And they have the mixed use overlay on them. That means that you can also develop residential. So the owners of these properties have a commercial zone, and they have a mixed use overlay, meaning they can develop residential. Initially, that meant they could do both, but now it means they can do either or. So we essentially have 2 zones. We don't, in fact, have 2 zones because overlays are not complete zones usually. They don't have everything that a zone has, and that's why we have the underlying zone. So where the overlay doesn't address something, you go back to the zone underlying it. So for example, the overlay may say something as simple as residential is allowed, and what kind of residential. But then you have to go to the zone underneath to find out what the development standards are. It's a very simple, not realistic example, but that's how it works. That's what we're proposing to do with our inventory. We're proposing to put overlays over commercial and industrial properties to add another layer of allowing residential on these properties without changing all of the property rights that they currently have. So they remain commercial properties or they remain industrial properties, and they can continue to develop or continue to operate, no problem, as commercial or industrial properties. But now they have this enhanced option where they can also do residential. That's the mechanism we're going to use to achieve our 600 or 6,000 goal. Okay, next slide. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Amanda now, and we're going to go through the city in five parts. We're going to start at the north, and we're going to show you 2 maps. The first map is going to be the current zoning. It's just to give everybody a familiarity with the neighborhood we're showing you. And you'll see that we have yellow areas and brown areas. Those will be the residential areas. Red and pink are the commercial areas, and some parts will have blue, and that will be industrial. Here's the first map. So after we sort of get our bearings, then we're going to move on to the next map, which is going to show you where the overlays are. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Amanda, and she'll explain what we're doing in each area. Amanda?
Yes, thank you. Hi, good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. So yes, as Greg stated, I'll be going over the maps, and we broke it up into the city into 5 parts, and we're going to start here on the northern end of Gardena. So that's between El Segundo Boulevard down to Rosecrans Avenue, and from east to west, from Vermont Avenue over to Crenshaw. So here you'll see, like Greg was stating, our current zoning map for this area of Gardena. Again, the yellows and the oranges and the browns represent residential zoning districts, and industrial is highlighted in blue, commercial in red. And what Greg was going over before, we do have a mixed use overlay on certain parts throughout the city. And then lastly as well, we have in the green our official zone, and that's where you're going to find public government facilities. So when we're looking at areas that we want to place the housing overlay to allocate for our sites inventory, we really took a look. Staff's strategy was to take a look at major corridor areas. So that's what we took a look at here. And let me describe this area for you, or this map. Here we have, over the existing zoning areas, we have the housing overlays, what we're calling 03, 04, 05, and 06. Those are overlays over the commercial and industrial properties that allow now for housing development. They're broken down into different density listed out there. In the 03, we have roughly around from 0 to 17 units per acre, which mirrors the similar density, or the exact density that we have in our existing R3 zoning district. That's our medium density zone. And in the similar overlay 04, we mirrored the existing residential zone of R4, having a density of minimum 20 units per acre to a maximum 30. And then we're introducing higher density overlays indicated by 05 of 31 units per acre to 50 max. And then the last one, which is the highest density overlay that we're proposing, is 51 units to 70 units per acre. Also on the map, you're going to see some parcels that are highlighted in the overlays that have hash marks over it. When we took a look at our sites inventory, we're looking at properties that HCD, the State Department, is going to classify as feasible for actual housing development. So some of the areas are hashed out because in our analysis, we identified those areas as not necessarily feasible per HCD's definition for housing development within the 8-year period that we're planning for. So that's what you'll see hashed out, but there will be included in the rezone and the overlays. They just won't be necessarily included in our site's inventory in the housing element. And then lastly, what Greg had gone over as well, we have religious institution overlays. So staff went throughout the city and located religious facilities and marked them with out in blue and orange here to identify them. As Greg was stating, that new state law will allow for these properties to have housing development. So we just noted it on these maps. But again, here, the strategy was to have the highest density overlays over our major corridors. So again, along El Segundo and along Crenshaw Boulevard, to mirror some of the projects that we've seen in those areas. And then as well, when we're going down Western, we did get a note from the Planning Commission meeting we had to include more properties within the overlay. Originally, when we went to Planning Commission, staff had proposed some areas along Western, but after it was noted that more areas should be included, so we went ahead and made those changes. We also made some changes in regards to densities throughout the different areas. It was a suggestion from Planning Commission that the densities along Rosecrans Avenue be increased to the highest overlay proposed. So that's what you'll see here being proposed at this time. The areas being under 06 overlay, which is the highest density. There was also a note from Planning Commission and members of the public at that night to decrease the density along Normandy Avenue, being a smaller corridor, potentially not having the capacity for that amount of density along Normandy Avenue. So we proposed it over to an R4 overlay density. And that's what we had come up with the north part of Gardena. At this time, if anybody has any questions or comments to be made on this section before we move on to the next, I'll go ahead and open it up.
How are you doing, then, man?
Yep.
Hi, Councilmember.
Can I clarify, Amanda, are you looking for public comments as well at this point?
First.
I'll clarify. Yes, we're looking for public comments, but if anyone from the council wants to jump in, please go ahead.
Okay,
This is informal, so just start asking.
Okay, this is Councilman Cascanian. I have a question. I'm seeing this. So this one, it's north of Rosecrans that I see that the blue overlay the properties, right? From Normandy all the way to Van Ness. That's correct, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there is a lot of industrial as well over there along the corridor of Rosecrans. And let's say now we change the zoning. Let's say if one of the property owners sells the property and the buyer, let's say, somebody comes and he's going to continue industrial business over there, and we have the zoning change. So what's next? I mean, how that's going to work out?
That's a good question. Nothing will change because remember, we're not changing the zones. We're putting an overlay. So the industrial zone remains. They have the option of doing residential. It's an enhancement. Actually, the property has become more valuable, you could say, because it's an option that we were adding. We're not changing the industrial zone.
Even though, let's say the business, closes down and it goes out a year or two, so it doesn't lose the grandfather, whatever, the business license. And so there will be still industrial or commercial, whatever it was previously, right?
That's correct. The zone does not change. It's still industrial. It just has an enhanced overlay of residential on top.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I had a question. So I noticed the blue overlay between Rosecrans and Van Ness, and it looks like it goes up to somewhere between 139th and 135th. Through there, the blue overlay. So right now, they already have a lot of apartments where parking is kind of out of control, just with the residential apartments on the west side of the street, the beige color there. So if we put more residents in that little area there and where the manufacturer, I mean, if there's an option, let's just say a property comes up for sale and a builder wants to, put some sort of, units there, that area there is really going to get backed up because again, it's already, the parking right now is pretty bad through there. Especially in the evening, if you drive through there, all through the commercial area there, there's parking because it's coming from the apartments. So I don't know that would.
Madam Mayor, which street were you talking about?
On Van Ness.
Okay.
And I'm going to start at Rosecrans here at the bottom. Okay. And then continue all the way to where it stops, right at the green, because right at the green should be a Maria Regina like high school, right? I mean, a school right in there. Right. So right with this whole blue area from where your red dot is all the way down. At the very bottom portion right there, I mean, that's like the U-Haul place, and I think there's a post office. But, right now we have people who are parking in that, the beige color there where their apartments are, they're parking all down the street, almost, on the everywhere there's allowable, parking through here. So I think if you put any more residential in there, it's going to really tie that area up.
Amanda, could you back up one slide and show us what the existing zoning is on that? Okay, so we already have the residential there. And
In the
then,
beige.
okay, now we can go back to the other slide. Okay. So are you suggesting then that maybe on the west side of Van Ness, from that where the cursor is down to the right to there, maybe not put the overlay on that?
Well, hold on a second. My understanding, isn't the blue supposed to be the overlay? The very,
No, there's brown overlay as well. It's just not as dense. That's the 04 I'm talking about.
okay.
And then on the other side of the street, only the corner right there is considered viable. I don't know what's there though. You
Automotive.
Okay. The rest of it is considered not likely to ever be housing in the 8 years. But if the council's direction is to exclude that as well, that's another thing that we can consider.
But let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
I understand it's not likely, but if any of those properties come up for sale and somebody comes in and says, hey, I just want to stick residential in there, they have that option because it's made available, correct?
They would, if this was left as we have proposed it, yes, they would. So we're here to take direction. So if the direction is to take this part out, that will be the direction we'll follow. Keep in mind, though, I'm just going to be blunt. The more we take out, the more we'll have to put somewhere else. But
Right.
the honest truth is we have a little bit to work with here.
Okay.
So it's fine if that's what the council's direction will be.
Madam Mayor, I mean, may I interrupt? You know
Sure.
the area that you're talking about, that 4 squares, the blue squares?
Yes,
They are like a warehouse industrial right there.
correct.
And it's a pretty good size properties over there. I mean, if that property comes for sale, as you mentioned, I'm pretty sure a residential builder is going to jump in there and is going to put residential property in there.
Yeah, but we have to, excuse me, I don't mean to speak up.
Paula, give me just a second, then I'll let you speak after. Go ahead, Art.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a pretty good size buildings over there. I know the area very well. I mean, I drive over there on a daily basis. And it's one of these warehouses comes up for sale. I'm pretty sure a residential investor or builder is going to jump on that property and put at least 20, 30, if not 50 units in there. It's pretty good size properties over there. So that's going to make big traffic right there. As you know, already Amazon trucks goes by every day like crazy on that Van Ness. So it's going to create more traffic in that neighborhood. So you're right. I agree with you.
Councilwoman?
Yes, I had some concerns about that particular area because that warehouse area you're talking about, it recycles televisions, old TVs, and we're not quite sure what old are the big tube TVs. They really needs to be cleaned up. And I think it may be a potential brownfield site that may be contaminated because of whatever it is coming out of those old television sets. We don't know. There may be a problem there. And then also, here we talk about Rosecrans, right there, Rosecrans Van Ness, that's the new development that's going in there. But then if you go a little farther, there's Nissan, who's on one side of the street. And then you go a little farther, there's a waste transfer station. So I'm curious, how are you going to talk about putting residential right next to the waste transfer station?
Well, yeah, I mean,
It's Rosecrans in Normandy, isn't it? So
yeah.
if you rezone it, will the waste transfer station have to move?
No, I mean, it may not ever be developed for that reason.
Well,
And that may be something that HCD kicks out.
But why would you, I guess I'm kind of confused as to if there's a waste transfer station there already, then why would you even include that as a part of your possible inventory? And the other thing, just briefly, the areas that you're talking about, El Segundo and Western, most of brownfield sites are located in that part, that industrial commercial section of Gardena. So I was wondering, why would you, how could that be included as well, unless those sites have been cleaned up. I don't know if we ever figured out who was going to clean up whatever mess was left there.
Councilmember Francis, I want to point out that the fact that residential is of right doesn't mean that they don't have to provide the phase 1, phase 2 type studies and clean up environmentally contaminated property. That will still be a requirement. Nobody's going to be allowed to develop housing on a contaminated site.
Yes, I appreciate that. I certainly hope not, but perhaps you can appreciate my confusion. If you know the site's already contaminated, why would you include it for housing and maybe perhaps for something else?
Well, because the developers often clean it up. The site that was just approved tonight, the development for the GTO DSP, they put in a vapor recovery system. The Olson development at 141st had to put in some recovery systems or vapor barriers. I think G3 on several of their developments have put on some mitigation measures. The sites along Marine Avenue, where the development fell through because of one of the property owners had contamination on, and the developers were going to clean it up. So the fact that a site is contaminated does not make it undevelopable for.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, and I don't mean it, but historically, I don't know, you remember we have had sites where they've had to, after years, after, they did whatever it was they said they were going to do to clean it up, they had to go back in, and I think you were around at that time. I think Albertsons at Oak Park Home or that area, they had to go back in and do some cleanup because whatever they said they actually didn't clean up. It was found years later to still be contaminated. I'm just concerned that, I'm sure, they have to by law, but I'm just concerned, why would you even include a possible Brownsville site? And that you know it's contaminated. So anyway, that's just my question. I heard you.
Okay, so if I can go back just for 1 second. So Greg or Lisa or Amanda. So I guess the area that I'm only looking at is just a straight line on Van Ness here from the top portion at the green straight to the end, which would probably be U-Haul right there.
Yeah.
Just that one area that my suggestion, I would think maybe omit. To the right of it, I know we have our new housing development area. So I would like to not include that part right there.
Well, it's not included in the inventory. It's only included in the overlay.
Okay.
Overlays are made to be consistent, so they're not patchwork, because they're like zones. They have to connect. Otherwise, you get into kind of a spot zoning kind of issue.
And that's what we don't want, is spot zoning.
We don't want that. So we have a lot of places where they have the hash marks. They're not realistic, but they're still going to have the overlay. And it's just to connect the parts that are realistic.
Okay, I just don't want that to be a loophole for somebody to come in and then it's patchy looking at the end of the day.
No, and if we take out the part that you're talking about on Van Ness, then the other part becomes optional because it's not connecting anything anymore. So we'll take a hard look at that.
Okay, thank you.
So just one last question. So where the waste transfer station is included down here, you would make that a part of you make that an overlay too, even though the waste transfer station is there?
Yeah, because 8 years from now, who knows, it may not be there any longer.
Oh, it's going to go away?
I don't know. I mean, we have to just assume that everything is possible, but we're marking it as infeasible at the moment.
So, okay, so just help my clarification. We're going to put an overlay zone by the waste transfer station.
No, I've taken your comment and I've made a note. We'll probably mark those 2 properties to the west as infeasible.
That wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing for the waste transfer center to leave. So to be honest with you.
Yeah, but we're
We offered them enough money. Yes.
Yeah.
And at this time, the transfer station has an a mixed use overlay, so it already allows for housing at this time.
Yeah. But it's marked as infeasible, and that's realistic. I don't think that the HCD would accept it anyway. But for continuity, we're going to have it in the overlay just so that it isn't disjointed. We don't want to have one block all by itself.
Okay.
Next, that's why we get that storage place next to the waste company, because they couldn't build nothing else.
Right. I remember that. So next is Mayor Pro Tem, and then afterwards we have a comment from the public. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a couple of things. So this mixed overlay stuff you're showing us is just, that's what it is. These are places that have mixed overlay. And the places that you are showing us doesn't mean that there actually is going to be a place there. These are options that you guys have looked at in the city that are possible places that we can put, housing units. So nothing that we're seeing tonight is saying, oh, we're going to build here, we're going to build there. So this is basically, we're just looking at pie in the sky. This could be, this could not be, and it's a possibility or it's not a possibility. So when we look at this, you have to look at it realistically, that these are just options that we're looking at, not saying that there is going to be something put there, correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
As to the first part, though, you have to remember there's also a mixed use overlay already out there in the city, and we're
Right.
not showing you that.
Right.
Yeah, so that's not even included on these maps. And
Right.
probably should have included it, but it would just get too
It
complicated.
gets too convoluted.
Yeah.
So the last thing is that, so to answer the mayor's issue is that they really don't care about parking in this plans as far as the arena numbers. All they care about is the units, correct? They don't care about parking. They don't care about traffic.
That's right, but we do. So we
Right.
have control over that. So we're taking all of these comments very seriously.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
Okay, I believe we have a question from the public. Madam City Clerk?
Yes, we do. We have a hand up, Mr. Ahmed.
Oh, yes. Hi. Good afternoon, City Council. So I just was taking some notes. So the first thing I was thinking is there a way we can even, the maps that we have right now for the zoning maps, can we even have, develop some for or ask from the other neighboring cities like Torrance, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, compare our city overlay plans with their more, affluent cities? Also, what happens if we don't conform to the RHNA for the regional housing needs allocation? Can we sue the HCD for essentially giving us more housing compared to, let's say, Torrance, Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach, the more affluent cities like Palos Verdes, Rancho Palos Verdes, and because they have buses also going through their city. And then if it's buses, can we even change our buses the way they're, drive around the city? Also, the mixed overlay, if we have so much apartment buildings, we're going to, how many students are we going to have to a classroom? 60 students to a classroom. And, it's just going to be, it's just not going to be a feasible thing. Can we also get our Congresswoman Maxine Waters involved? And also the last one here is City of Carson has a housing authority agency. I know that's a long process of, getting a housing authority agency. How can we get one in Gardena? They have single family houses that are only $330,000. They are income based, but they're beautiful houses. They look like real single family housing. So I think if we put more, more restrictions, we won't have these developers coming in trying to build these 700 unit apartment buildings, 8-10 stories tall. If we put get a housing authority, and then parking, we need a mandatory ratio of 2 parking spots per 1 bedroom, and also if we can use city funds, that $23 million reserve fund, maybe use 40% of that to buy city properties, and we can develop it ourselves. So we have control, for example, parks. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, do you want me to answer questions at the end or as they come up?
You can go ahead and as they come up.
Okay, so just a very brief way that the RENA works. HCD divides the state up among all the various council of governments, and they give the numbers to each council of governments. Then the council of governments divides the allocation for that cog into all of the individual jurisdictions within its boundaries. So we're in the SCAG region. SCAG has, I think, 7 counties. SCAG divided up all the numbers. There was an appeal period. There were lots of different methodologies looked at. There was push and pull, but eventually most everything got dumped into LA, Orange County for the most part. Riverside, the outlier areas didn't get as much because they want it by transportation. There were 82 appeals, I believe, for the RENA to the SCAG. 80 were denied. One was granted because they had put housing right below the Santa Fe Dam, I believe, and that's never going to happen. And there was another area where they had done some allocation where there's zero infrastructure whatsoever. But except for those two outliers, SCAG basically said, doesn't matter, we don't care what you're saying. This is how the housing is going. We looked at lawsuits. There's really nothing to be done. There were a number of cities that urged the SCAG Executive Committee to sue HCD. SCAG Executive Committee declined to do that. Yes, Gardena, and anybody who's been following this all along knows that Gardena got hit basically the hardest in this general area. Doesn't matter what they gave to Redondo, Hermosa, the more affluent cities. The argument there being they didn't have the transportation we have. Even if we cut down on our transportation, it wouldn't change what we're obligated to give during the next 8-year period. Certainly the city can look at increasing parking requirements, but as you know, the state's pushing for fewer parking requirements. If some of the legislators get their way, there won't be any parking requirements that we can do for anything soon. And then with affordable housing, the state dictates what the parking requirements can be in those locations. Carson's Housing Authority Agency, I will assume that a lot of what Carson is able to do is because they once had redevelopment, which Gardena never had. They had to have a successor agency, so they probably had a lot of properties to work with, and probably still money in the redevelopment funds that moved over to successor agencies and everything. That's a guess. I'm not saying with authority on what that is. And anything anybody can do to get the legislators to back off on the ridiculous housing legislation that we are all forced to operate under would be wonderful. In answer to Councilmember Francis's question of why are we designating some of these areas, when the areas that we're designating for affordable housing get developed and they don't put the affordable housing on the site, and we've seen that already in a couple of situations where a property was shown in the last housing element to be available for affordable housing, we have to make findings that there's still sufficient number of sites available to continue to meet our housing at every income level. We know based on past experience that all these sites and where we're hoping to get affordable housing, it's not going to happen. It will be market rate housing. So we need to have that cushion, those extra sites available. And unfortunately, it has led us to some of these areas.
Madam Mayor, can I speak on this item?
I'm sorry, it's muted. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, and I want to thank you, Lisa, for that explanation. So as our SCAG rep and being party to some of these conversations, I'm not on the executive committee, but as it was stated, there was a lot of pushback from a lot of cities, and why Gardena got hit so hard is because of where we're located in the geography within LA County, especially in the South Bay, because we have such close proximity to the Green Line, as well as the 110 corridor, as well as Vermont and Crenshaw and Rosecrans and El Segundo. We're on a lot of the major arterials and transportation corridors within LA County. So that's our gift and our curse to LA County in the existence of city of Gardena. I won't say this is a theoretical exercise, but if you look at our total geography in 6 square miles, we got a dilemma anyway, because as Lisa stated, there's no way we're going to ever be able to meet our housing element because we just don't have enough space physically. So it's finite anyway, but we have to propose some sort of overlay or some place where we can put some housing so we can meet the criterion of the actual arena number and everything. If it gets developed or not, none of us are sure about that, but we have to make our best effort. So this is where what the challenge comes in at. And if we start trying to reduce the overlays and everything, as it was stated, we'll have to put it somewhere else within the city. So that's where that pushback is coming, is that Gardena got hit the heaviest out of everybody because we're so close to all the actual transportation corridors. Thus, the last item that we approved with the Crenshaw property with that specific plan, because there's a transit-oriented development is what the goal is of RENA. And the 6 counties that are comprised of SCAG, LA and Orange got hit the most, and within LA County, we probably got hit the hardest. The beach cities, they're so far west, not next to anything but Sepulveda. They weren't good candidates. Those up on the hill, they're way south. They weren't good candidates. Us, Hawthorne, Lawndale, we kind of got hit pretty good, but we got hit the hardest. So that's the rationale behind all this. And to another point, we still could probably appeal to our legislative colleagues in Sacramento to give us a break. South Bay COG had some issues with that, and we protested the SCAG ruling and finding, but then we got overruled and the executive committee voted. So that's kind of where we are. So I understand this exercise. I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
And I'm sorry, there was one other important question that Mr. Ahmed raised that I forgot to address. What happens if we don't comply? There are major penalties. First off, we can lose a lot of funding. Cities are getting grants, they get pushed up if they're housing element compliant. So Gardena would stand to lose out in that area. We can be sued by the state attorney general, and they have gone after cities, and they are going to be more aggressive, I guess is the word I want to use, in going after cities in the future for not complying with the housing mandates. Fines can be imposed. The fines can eventually reach up to $600,000 per month. A receiver could be appointed to start dealing with the city. And all development in the city can be stopped. Court could rule that we couldn't issue a permit for anything. And I've had the benefit of watching Veronica now in a number of cities. So I've got a preview of what she will be telling you when it eventually comes before you, that they can even issue to the point of not allowing remodels on homes. Every development can stop if we're not housing compliant. So the penalties are more severe than they've ever been. The legislature keeps putting more teeth into the powers of the state.
Yes, Attorney Krennis, thank you so much for explaining the penalties for us not complying. All I'm suggesting is that even within our compliance, that we're just smart about it. And I think we can comply, meet our numbers as best we can, and we can be smart about our growth as well. I'm a proponent of smart growth, and I think it just makes sense. So that's all I'm suggesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Francis. I'm a firm believer that the group is always smarter than the individual, and the community is always smarter than the group. So that's what this exercise is about. And we're going to get the best information by going through this. So if there's
Greg,
anybody else.
One more question.
Yeah.
So I noticed the gold overlay and I'm looking at the bottom portion from Van Ness and Rosecrans, and that's for the religious institution overlay. So on the left side, to your left,
Oh, no, that on the left side is the,
isn't that for religious institution overlay?
no, that one, the colors don't match perfectly. Amanda, is that 04 or 03?
That's 04.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. Never mind then. Delete my question.
And essentially, I think that property's pretty much zoned that because I think it already has the mixed use overlay there. So we need to relook at that.
For religious institution overlay there, because that's commercial.
That's, I believe, under the existing zoning of the city that, Amanda, can you go up a slide, please? Yeah, that already has the mixed use overlay on it, or at least a portion of that, which already allows the 20 to 30 units per acre on Rosecrans. All those areas that are red with the hash marks, those already allow 20 to 30 units.
Okay, that's my only question.
Okay. So if there's any other comments or questions on this slide, this is the last chance. And if there are none, we'll move on. Okay, Amanda?
Okay, so moving on down south. So this is south of Rosecrans Avenue all the way down to Redondo Beach Boulevard, and still again between Crenshaw and Vermont. And so again, here's the existing zoning of this section of the city. And same strategy as on the north side, we're looking at along the major corridors. So again, along Western, Crenshaw, Rosecrans, some down Normandy here. But these are the areas that we've identified for the overlays. Again, the hash marks noting that those sites are not feasible for our site's inventory list, but the others would be counted towards our inventory. So on the south end of Rosecrans, we just saw the north end of Rosecrans, and we try to mirror what we saw on the other side there. We took note from the Planning Commission to decrease what our proposed overlay along Rosecrans, the ones that are those abutting single-family home properties, to be at the density of the 04, which is between 20 and 30. And then as well as, actually, it was a note from Planning Commission to increase the density in further down Rosecrans Avenue. So we went ahead and now proposing the 06 overlay of, again, 51 to 70 units per acre. Other changes were along Crenshaw as well, changing the densities down, because those abut as well single-family homes. So I'll open it back up to see if any members of the council or of the public have any comments or suggestions in this area.
I have a question. So on the Crenshaw portion there where it's yellow, in the previous slide, was that yellow as well too? I'm curious that it matches.
You mean these areas?
Go back up from the previous section.
One more.
One more from the first half.
No, it's blue.
So it's blue here. So it's denser here than it is on the going south of Rosecrans?
Yes, and the reason is that the ones south of Rosecrans are abutting to single-family homes, and these up here in the north have got the Dominguez Channel as an additional buffer. These go back to the slide we were working on. Two more. Yeah, these don't have that Dominguez Channel buffer, and the property lines are shared in some cases with single-family homes. So we didn't want to put that very, very high density there. That was a recommendation that we got from the Planning Commission meeting, and I think it makes sense. I mean, want to impose that kind of, I mean, the people who live in those houses will be in shadows from, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on, if we had too high of density there.
So let me ask one question. I know I'm jumping back. If you look on the El Segundo, and I know that's in section 1, on El Segundo between Western all the way down to Crenshaw, that's all blue.
Yeah.
And that's very dense and there's no buffer there. And they're looking directly into the people's backyard there, correct? Because that's very dense there.
There are alleys along those properties between the single family homes as well. When we took a look at these areas along, specifically these areas along El Segundo, we noticed that there is existing residential development on there at a very already high density development. So we decided that's why a lot of these areas are not counted towards the site's inventory. They have hash marks over them because those sites already have high density development on them. So really the only sites we're including in the inventory are all the other sites that don't necessarily have any residential at this time. So that's along Van Ness and El Segundo. But
especially from Van Ness to Western and those areas where it's blue, those apartments sit up higher and they look directly into people's backyards. So, I mean, that's dense there. And that's why, I mean, I figure if you're going to do it on El Segundo, you might as well do the same thing on Crenshaw and
the
south
difference
of there.
is,
So it's consistent, because if not, it's like, why is there a difference being made on El Segundo side then versus the Crenshaw side?
I think the difference is that these are already built because we've
Correct.
all of them except for those at the intersection of Van Ness as non-feasible.
That's correct.
And we're just basically matching what's already built to the overlay that we have. I mean, it doesn't matter, honestly, what overlay we put on this stretch because they're not going anywhere anyway. They're already dense. We're not counting it in the inventory. So we could make it 05. It wouldn't make any difference. It's not in the inventory.
Okay. There's a hand up, Madam City Clerk.
Yes, Gardena Cinema has their hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, so I was at the Planning Commission meeting and I did suggest at the time at the Planning Commission meeting, I believe the Crenshaw corridor was blue at 05 density. And I suggested they increase it to 06 because to match north of Rosecrans, because Crenshaw is a very large thoroughfare and could sustain increase in the traffic with dense projects, higher density projects. But coming to the meeting now, I see that they lowered it based upon the Planning Commission's suggestion because it is adjacent to single family homes. I have to say that some of these, I know that where we're located, there's actually an alleyway that separates the single family homes from the commercial properties. So I really don't think it needs to be lowered. And I do think that of all places in the city, Crenshaw and Vermont are the two streets that can probably sustain increases in density. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
Mayor, sir, this is Henderson again. In regards to your other question and what I think was being stated is that those that are right there in El Segundo, because they're not being counted in this inventory, that only corner is left is Van Ness and El Segundo, which is commercial at best, and that's where the overlay goes. I get the rationale as far as Crenshaw, and I kind of agree with the last caller, but because there's no channel running, there's no space across everybody that's south of Rosecrans and everything. So if that's 04 right now, that's 04 right now.
So far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to make it 05 because that really makes it really crazy. But 04 is good for that area. But again, the property lines are tough. Is there any way that in the development that we could create some sort of kind of demarcation zone between that property and the existing property similar to what the channel does?
Well, we haven't written the development standards yet, so we can always add that the less intense part of the development if it's adjacent to R1 or R2. That's not a problem. And we could have R or 05 where there's an alley or a street, because I can see there's a couple of blocks that do have alleys and there's one that has a street. So I mean, we'll take your direction on that.
Okay, any more questions? Okay. Greg or Amanda?
Okay.
So before we move on, do we have a final suggestion on what to do with Crenshaw?
I would say leave it as it is. It's already 20 to 30 units per acre. That's a lot already. In my opinion, I don't know. My
Yeah,
colleague.
well, I kind of agree with what Mark said, but because there are alleyways that separate that commercial from the residential, and the alleyways are pretty big. But if there's some way that you could actually make a better separation between a project there and the residential, you could probably go to 05.
But it's going to be a wall regardless, though, right? No matter what the project would be, I'm sure it would be a wall of some sort.
Well, I think there are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be any width. Like the channel provides a natural separation, some width, where these just have a tall wall versus the width that we would want to kind of have some separation.
Well, I think if they took a look at it, just to survey it to see what they could do.
Yeah.
I would be okay with this staying at 04 then. I mean, after hearing what different people have suggested here, I'm fine with that.
I think I'm okay with that. 04 to go too.
We could probably go like as I think as was suggested, if there is a street that could accommodate, you're talking about being transit rich and transit development rich and all that, it certainly would be Crenshaw Boulevard. And you actually could go up there down to Redondo Beach Boulevard. You could go up there.
We can take a look at it, closer look, drive the area if necessary ourselves to see where the separations are and where we can bump it.
Yeah, because if you're talking about transit-oriented development, that certainly would be an area that we
So what I'm hearing from the council is somewhere between 04 and 05.
Yeah, I mean, it could be in different areas. One area could be in 04, one area could be in 05.
Yeah. We
don't want to do that, are we?
Well, no, it's a long enough area that it can have both, as long as it's not constantly changing.
Right.
And as long as there's reasonable justifications, I mean, spot zoning in and of itself is not illegal if there's a public purpose for it.
But we try to avoid spot zoning.
Yeah. I think that the real key is how we write the development standards for those overlays.
Right.
But
Is it on Crenshaw, right between Manhattan Place and Marine? There is like a few churches over there.
Several churches.
Yeah, the churches that are underneath the overlays we're not showing.
Okay.
But,
but they're not affected though anyway, right?
Well, they'll probably get a better deal from the housing overlay than they would from the religious institution overlay. But if they wanted to use the religious institution overlay, that would probably be okay too.
But they
A lot of those businesses are set back from the street.
The businesses on Crenshaw?
Yeah, because the parking's all in the front on the Crenshaw side, so the businesses are all kind of set back from the street.
Probably the opposite of how residential would go.
Right.
Yeah.
I think 04 it's a good for Crenshaw.
Okay, I think we have a good understanding of the direction, and we'll take a look at this carefully. Should we move on to the next part?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, So next section we took a look at is between Redondo Beach Boulevard, just south of Redondo Beach Boulevard, down to Gardena Boulevard. And the sites we took a look at here were again along Western, and the site here is the Bank of America site that was previously identified in our last housing element. So we're identifying it again, as well as we are showing some of the religious institution overlays. Nothing in this area changed from the Planning Commission meeting. So what you're seeing here is what we originally identified. So I'll open it back up to see if any members of the council or public have any comments or suggestions for this area.
Madam City Clerk, does anybody from the public wish to speak on this?
Madam Mayor, we have one hand up, Mr. Ahmed.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Hi, good afternoon, City Council. So I was wondering, just something I was thinking about, what if we put the highest density next to the city of Torrance? I mean, essentially when they leave, when people living next to the city of Torrance, they're living Gardena, but they exit right into Gardena, into Torrance. How about we just put all of our units that we do need, instead of putting it on Western, let's just put it attaching to city of Torrance, and that's something, will not affect our residents and will start affecting Torrance. And then also, what is the requirement for park and lieu fees for apartment buildings? Can we put like a $30,000 or $40,000 requirement like some cities in Orange County have for park and lieu requirement for apartment buildings? Thank you.
Well, I'll address the first part of that. A strategy that, like putting all of the units along the border of the city, would never be accepted by HCD. It has to be distributed evenly, or roughly evenly, throughout the city.
As to the second part of that, Gardena does not have a recreational fee for apartment buildings. I think that was something that we brought up when we discussed the Quimby fees last year. It's certainly something that can be done with the proper study and analysis to put a park and recreation fee on apartment development as well, but we can't just ad hoc do it without the proper studies.
I have a question. What is this area on Western, on the other side of Redondo Beach, where it looks, it's very light? What is that area over there?
That's part of the area that we just discussed before we moved on to this slide.
Okay, it's the other side.
Yeah, that was the previous slide.
Oh, okay. So these are religious overlays, religious institutions here, Redondo Beach Boulevard?
We're showing 3 of them south of Redondo Beach, 2 of them on Normandy, and 1 over by Vermont. Those are the orange ones with the blue border.
And my apologies, we missed one. This is also, I believe, a religious institution, so there should be an overlay on this site along here as well. But those, yes, those are the religious overlays. Everything north of Redondo, we just went over, so that's why it's faded out.
Okay, so this in here, so there is no opportunity there for. Thank you very much. This
Where?
Right here, Redondo Beach and Normandy. Here, where you have all religious institutions. I'm just trying to think.
No, that's commercial. That's where Walgreens and
Commercial,
everything's and all that.
all on that side.
That's correct.
When if we do a religious overlay zone, it will essentially apply to every religious institution in the city. We'll have the opportunity to take advantage of what we develop.
So the religious institution doesn't have to already exist there. It'll just be an overlay area. It doesn't have to already have religious institutions there. Is that correct? Or am I reading this right? I'm trying to.
If it's a church or a temple or other type of religious institution, and it doesn't get another type of overlay because it's in a commercial or industrial zone, And it's just or in one of the areas that we're already doing the overlay on, but like the area to the far right of the map where we're proposing a religious institution overlay, then we're hoping to develop guidelines that would allow churches to share their properties with most likely affordable housing type
But
developments. That's
these-
what the churches are partnering up.
But it doesn't already have to have a church there. And as,
Well, yes, it only applies if it's a religious institution there.
so if there's no religious institution there, should there be a religious overlay, or are you placing a religious overlay in an area where there is no religious institution?
No, we're only putting them where there's already churches and
Is there
temples.
already churches here?
Yeah, that's where we've discovered there are some.
You're actually missing one at 158 in Normandy, because there's two on that west side of the street.
Yeah, we're probably
And-
missing several.
Yeah, and the one that you have near 162nd is actually on 158.
Okay. The religious institution overlay is going to be a little bit special in the sense that we don't have to map it out all at once. It'll be something that'll become available to any religious institution that wants to use it. And then when they activate it, we'll map it. So where they are exactly at this moment doesn't matter.
No. It's just that they're there.
Yeah.
Greg, I have a question.
Yes.
Just curious regarding this, it just popped in my mind. Let's say a project coming up on Western and Redondo Beach Boulevard going down south, and smack in the middle, there is a property and the owner doesn't want to sell it, doesn't want to comply and this and that, and they have to have that property in order to continue. Does the eminent domain come in this case?
No.
On this or
No.
no?
No.
They cannot force nobody
No.
to sell the property or nothing, right? I mean,
No.
that's out of question.
That's not an option.
Okay, good.
But at Redondo Beach in Normandy, there's a church there?
There may or may not be. We're not sure now.
No, Redondo Beach in Normandy, that's where Walgreens is a little triangle. That's Starbucks and everything.
Yeah, Starbucks is there, the gym is there, the Blink
Right,
gym is
the-
there.
Yeah.
Right. The Vaughn's gas station is on the other side of the little triangle.
Okay, but you're putting that as religious overlay. That's what,
No.
that's
No, that's commercial.
That's commercial.
pink, is not religious overlay?
No,
It's got a
religious
blue
overlay
square
is
around it.
orange with the blue border.
That right there.
Right here, but what about up here, Redondo Beach in Normandy, this little,
No, that's
there.
no religious overlay there.
Okay, so the pink color doesn't matter.
No, that's commercial.
Got to have a blue box around it.
Yeah,
Well, it has to have a blue box around it. It can't
Yes.
just be pink.
no. Pink is commercial and orange with a blue box is religious overlay.
Amanda, show down in the key where
Yes.
it corresponds.
See it. I think that's where I was kind of confused because I saw the pink box with blue and it says religious institution overlay, so that's what I thought it was. But anyway.
Okay, are there any other suggestions or comments or questions in this area?
Nope.
And what about Gardena Boulevard? There are no opportunities there for any type of development?
Not in the section that we're showing.
Hmm.
Where it dips down will be on the next slide.
It's on the next slide.
Yep, okay. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay. So here is from Gardena Boulevard down to Artesia Boulevard. These, this is the existing zoning map for that area. The reds being commercial, again, blue industrial, and the yellows, oranges, and browns, existing residential. So moving into the map showing the areas where sites identified. To answer Councilmember Francis's question, we did identify some areas along Gardena Boulevard for a housing overlay of 05, so allowing a density of around 31 to 50 units per acre. Other sites along Gardena Boulevard already allow for housing. So those those are included along here between Normandy and Vermont. But other sites we've identified were along Normandy, Gardena Boulevard down to, I believe this is 168th.
170.
170th, thank you. So down from Gardena Boulevard to 170th along Normandy Avenue, staff has identified these sites for potential housing overlay. When we went to the Planning Commission, we had identified this area potentially for a 05 housing overlay. However, again, as previously stated, the direction from the meeting was to lower the densities along Normandy Avenue, being a smaller corridor, potentially not having the capacity to house that amount of density. So we took note of that, and we identified those sites now under the 04 density of 20 minimum units per acre to a maximum of 30. And again, along on the other side over on Western Avenue, it's a similar trend you saw throughout the city going down Western of having that 05 housing overlay.
Amanda, can you point to that big box at the bottom of the Normandy part?
The
Zentis
Zentis.
site?
Mm-hmm.
Although we have identified this as an 04, we are expecting an application to come in for a specific plan in that area. And they're proposing a high density of 100 units to the acre. So that's always an option, by the way. Specific plans can come in and make applications for higher densities. So that's, I just wanted to point that out.
So Greg, I have a question in regards to the railroad tracks. Then what, 'cause I don't see the railroad tracks on here, and that's like in there somewhere.
Yeah, they're in there.
So what happens to the railroad?
Well, nothing really. They were there first probably, and they stay. But we have to work around them. I mean, this is part of the reason why this area was lowered the density, because many people from the public pointed out that the railroad tracks and the narrowness of Normandy make this very complicated, and there's a lot of stoplights. That's what we heard. So it was, we had it at 05, I think, and everybody said it's not going to be realistic. It's not going to, where do you put your driveways and everything is going to be very complicated. So we did lower it. But you can see most of what we've included here is marked out as infeasible anyway. So we're hoping that this density works.
So Greg, that project that you're looking at on Normandy at about 170th,
yes,
that's a trucking business, right?
Yeah.
But they're going out of business?
Lisa, can you help?
I think the new property owners, they've already closed escrow on this site. They've got some temporary use in there now that we've recently approved while they're developing, because it will take at least a year to get through the process of from the time they submit their applications, which will be sometime in June or July. They're expecting probably like with the EIR we just did, about a year through the environmental process.
Okay.
But yes, it is a residential developer that has bought that site, and
Wow, that's a huge site.
100 units to the acre is what they're looking at.
Thank you.
Doesn't the railroad cross right in front of that property?
They're going to get rid of the spur that comes into their property. I think they've already indicated they've been in touch with the railroad on that. And since the spur that actually curves into the property was only for that business, it's not needed anymore, is my understanding. But the railroad will still run down Normandy in front of their property.
And there is just down the street, there is a church too as well on the east side of Normandy, just past that property.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on the map.
Many of the churches are not mapped if they're underneath an overlay or if they're already in a residential zone that allows them to develop.
That church is up for sale too. There is a soon escrow going on there too.
Well, if they're not in business or whatever you would call it for a church, then they may not have been picked up for that reason. So are there any further comments or questions or suggestions on this section? Okay, Goose, we can move on then.
Okay. So the last section of the city is between Artesia Boulevard down to the end of city's boundaries, which is roughly around 182nd Street, between Western Avenue and Vermont Avenue. And so this is the southern end of Gardena, and it has some different zoning districts than we saw in other areas of the city. Particularly this area here noted in the light green is currently zoned the HB zone, which is a home-based zoning district that allows for industrial buildings along with a single-family home. So we took a look at this area and saw that there is a lot of potential for more housing. But we did hear from the property owners in this area for a push to allow for their existing uses under the HB zone to continue. So like we mentioned before, we originally had designated this area for a potential rezone, but since the Planning Commission meeting last week and from the public comments, we're suggesting at this time to put in an overlay, again, allowing for the underlying zoning HB to continue, but as well putting in an overlay for higher density, because right now those zoning districts, I believe, only allow for a single family home, but putting an overlay allowing for higher density in these areas is what's being suggested at this time. And as you can see, a lot of those areas are marked off as not being included in the inventory. And that's because, again, those areas already have housing developments on them. And we didn't see it as feasible at the densities, even with the overlay. But again, they do have that potential. But other changes, other overlays being suggested in this area are one in the previous areas known as the Artesia Corridor Specific Plan. That's that area here south of Artesia between Normandy and Western. There was some interest in potential housing development in that area. As you may know, there is some existing residential development just east of these sites. That's where the Rascals and the other businesses with the townhomes either located abutting Artesia or further into the property. So there is an interest for more housing in this area. So we have identified some sites to allow for an overlay of 06, which is again a density of 51 to 70 units per acre.
Amanda, if I can cut in for a second. That area that you just identified may be the only place where it won't be an overlay, but we will actually look at rezoning the property. And that's because as of today, we received applications for development by inside of the corner where the sump is. The presentation was made to the council some time ago about developing that site. We're basically going to have to undo the Artesia Corridor Specific Plan, which will never be developed the way it was once proposed anyway. So that one area may be the area that gets a complete rezone.
Yes. So again, that's that area just here. So that might be a potential rezone instead of an overlay. But other areas that were identified or again, along 178th here. If you remember, we previously had a project on this parcel here, the Malia Homes development on 178th, which did go through the steps for a rezone to R4. So staff thought it was an ideal location to do an overlay of the 04 overlay, mirroring that of the R4 density of 20 to 30 units per acre. And so mirroring that, that along both sides of 178 and allowing other areas having an overlay of 03, which again allows for roughly 0 to maximum 17 units per acre. So I'll go ahead and open it up again. If anybody has any comments, suggestions, or questions in this area. Again, this is the last section of the city.
Was that previous project still ongoing?
Which one, council member?
The one that was approved?
Malia?
Yeah.
They're well under construction. They've been selling their first phases and they're continuing on construction. And anytime you want to see that property and the development, we can arrange that for you.
Thank you.
Any of the council members who would like to see it.
Is that blank area, white area, is the Roosevelt Cemetery?
No, that's the high school.
High school.
That's not within the city limits.
Right.
Roosevelt is not?
No,
That's Gardena High.
That's Gardena High School.
No, I'm talking about Roosevelt Cemetery.
That's Gardena High School. Roosevelt's not in our city.
Roosevelt's on the other side of Electric Avenue.
Oh, okay.
It's on this side right here.
Yeah. Madam City Clerk, do we have a speaker?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do. Mr. Ahmed.
Go ahead.
Oh, yes. Hi, good afternoon, City Council. So I had a quick question. Is there a way we can change, instead of just having an overlay zoning, can we, even look to other cities and see what type of zoning criteria they're using? Also, can we put a clause for 55 plus senior housing? I'm open to having, more senior housing, assisted living facilities, and also, if there's a way we can even if there's and isn't Artesia and Normandy, isn't that land like a EPA Environmental Protection Agency hot zone? So I'm not sure if they're actually going to be able to put housing there. So and then there's also another question. This is just for City Council to think about for the future. Is there a way we, as a city, could we essentially start the process? I know it's like election to do our own school district. So if we essentially start like a Gardena school district, like Hawthorne, Lawndale has done, you could actually use federal funding and educational funding from like the county and a board of education to actually buy more property within the city as school land. And wouldn't that lower the like parkland and school land? Wouldn't that on the next housing element in 8 years, wouldn't that reduce the housing requirements, because land will just be taken over for, let's say, school or parkland? Yeah, and that's all. Thank you.
I'll address the first two parts. What other cities are doing is what's appropriate for those cities. And Gardena is very built out. Where there's still opportunities for Gardena is mostly in the commercial and industrial areas. There's not a lot of other options. So this is what we have thought is most appropriate for Gardena. But that decision is, of course, up to the elected officials to finalize. As for senior housing can certainly be a part of the picture, but it's considered to be moderate housing. We have to find housing at all the different income levels. So it's only part of the solution. It won't satisfy low income or very low income. As for you mentioned the sump, it is still a contaminated site, and the proposal that we're receiving does include that area, but it won't have any structures on it. It'll be basically just paved. We haven't,
It's not a housing proposal
it's
at
not a
all.
housing proposal on that portion. So the last part, I guess I can't answer.
I'm sorry, what was the last part? I got lost there. I think.
School district
School district
topic.
part.
Oh, well, I can just tell you from institutional knowledge of this city that they looked at trying to pull out of LAUSD a long time ago, and it never panned out. I also want to point out that what our housing numbers are this year, this cycle, is not necessarily an indication of what the allocation will be for the 21-29. I guess that would make it the 30 to 37 housing element that you can't necessarily correlate. Hopefully, I would hope that Torrance and some of the other cities start upping their bus service and their bus lines so they have better transportation and the numbers go to them next time.
Yeah, on that school topic, I just wanted to add, I think everybody on the council is aware of this. Historically, I think the city has studied that numerous times, and the findings were almost the same as either pretty costly, too difficult, or we weren't sure how we were going to do it, or it just wasn't going to work for us. I think the city studied this like 3 times. I'm not sure where that data is held, but I know we've looked at school, having our own school district years, way back when Don Deere was the mayor, I think.
Yep.
Even more recently than that, but one of the things that LA Unified has done this particular school year is they have created a Gardena community of schools where it's almost like having our own school district. And it contains schools that are public schools that are part of the city of Gardena. We have an administrator, Ms. Martinez, and our superintendent,
Mike Romero.
And after having reached out to them, we now have a good working relationship with them, which is what we always wanted as a part of the city, to have some influence in our schools. And so far, so good. And it's one of the good things that they've done for us. So we do, but being a public school teacher, I can tell you that it's a very expensive process, and it had been talked about, and not so much even when Don Deere was mayor. Across, I think the last time the conversation came up, I think Terry Terriucci was mayor at the time. So it has been that far in the distance.
Couple mayors have looked at it.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely, because there's something to it. As I said, that now that they have created a Gardena community of schools,
Yep.
It's almost like we have our own district, because we have our administrator that we have direct contact with, and our superintendent, who's also very, he's a hometown hero. He grew up in Gardena, he did our schools, and so
Yep.
he's familiar with us. And so it has made a difference for those of us that are, such as myself, that are very active in school and have different projects. Martin Luther King Cultural Committee, and getting support for them for some of our activities from Parks and Rec. So far, so good. So we're there.
And about 3 years ago, I did look into this too as well myself, and along with help with our assembly member, Al Muratsushi, we did some homework, and we did had a couple meetings with the LAUSD, and the main obstacle is money. That's it. So it's going to cost us a few $100 million to run our own school district. So I think that's the main reason it didn't succeed, or it's not going to work out, because it's going to look, a few $100 million. So then we stopped right there.
But as I said, with the creation of the Gardena Community of Schools, I'm very hopeful that we almost like having our own district, because we're able to reach out directly to our administrators.
You just have to pray that Mike Romero continues to be the superintendent, because he's our guy.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Okay, are there any more questions or comments on this here?
Nope.
Okay, then we'll conclude this presentation with a few additional slides, not many more. So let's go to the next one. So this is actually, this is the last slide. These are the next steps. So we're going to be taking the draft housing element to the Planning Commission on the first day of June. And the environmental review will be from June to September. HCD's review will be July and August. And then on September 21st, the plan is to have the public hearing at the Planning Commission. And then on October 12th, we'll be back to the City Council. And the deadline to submit is October 15th. So we're cutting it close, but we'll make it. And if anybody wants some additional information, at the bottom of the screen there is the web address where you can find additional information.
I just want to bring up one thing. The June 1st meeting right now is scheduled just to be a planning commission where the entire draft housing element will hopefully be ready to be presented to the planning commission. It was not going to go to the city council before being sent off to HCD because Veronica did not have another date to give to Gardena. Needless to say, we're one of a number of cities that she's handling the housing element for. If the city council wanted to have the draft housing element presented to them as well, we could schedule that as a joint meeting between the PC and the CC.
Okay.
But otherwise, the city council certainly review it, make comments, provide input, but as a body, it won't be coming to you unless we do a joint meeting.
Is this going to be like the changes were discussed, Lisa?
It will be not only the housing site inventory, it will be the whole housing element, everything else that's required to be in it, which has become so complicated with all the change in legislation, the housing policies. We have to come up with incentives, incentivize ADUs. What actions have we taken? What has to still be taken besides just zoning changes? What can we be looking at to make housing more affordable? There's environmental constraints you have to look at, governmental constraints, market constraints. It includes a lot of demographics in it.
So if we, let's say, for myself, I would like to join the meeting on June 1st. Can I do that, or it'll be conflict?
It does not come, it's not scheduled to go before the council in draft before it goes to HCD. But I would suggest that if there's enough council members who are interested in it, we can do it like we've done the other workshops and schedule a joint meeting just to make sure.
Yeah, so you're saying that it won't come back to us, so we won't have any more say so about what it's going to look like beyond this tonight. Is that what you're saying?
Currently, no. That's what we're saying, and you won't have input on all the other elements of the housing element. The timing is just harsh. It has been amazing to me that with everything the governor continued and gave extensions to, the housing element was not one of those things. So all the cities were suffering through the worst part of COVID, and now everybody's rushing to make sure that we're getting to meet our statutory deadline.
So because of timing, we have no further input on the process. Is that what you're saying as a city council?
Well, so how it works is the draft housing element gets sent off to HCD for review. HCD makes their comments, and basically then we make changes to accommodate HCD's changes. But if you were going to, when it then gets back before the city council, if we were then going to start making additional changes, it would have to go back to HCD. it would push us past the deadline to approve the housing element. And there's a certain grace period. It's not very long where you could get a little bit of extra time. So what I'm saying is if the council wants input, the earlier the better.
Yeah, because I'm a little concerned about that. That concerns me. And with the scheduling, I am also concerned about the scheduling. You know, this kind of, for something that is so important, that's going to impact us for the next 8 years, you know, perhaps we could have done a little bit better job. I don't know. I'm not pointing fingers or saying whose fault it is, but I'm concerned with the schedule, because we should, as the body that is elected to do what's in the best interest of our city, we should have that kind of input.
A lot of the other chapters are pretty much administrative, as I said, demographics and what have we done? What are we going to do? All housing, all elements of the general plan contain goals and policies.
But of course, but as I said, as the elected body whose concern is for the city.
And that's why I'm bringing it up, council member, to that if the desire is.
Thank you. I'm
that
finished.
we can do that as a joint meeting as we did the other ones.
Yes, we perhaps should. I'm sorry, I don't want to go in the back and forth. The hour's growing late.
Okay, are there any other, anything else as it relates to this here? Greg, Lisa, Amanda?
Just thank you for the input. It's been very helpful. We'll make the changes and we'll study the areas that you've pointed us to. And we'll get this off to Veronica as soon as we're done.
Okay. Okay, well, I think that's all we have for this item here, because basically we're just giving staff our input here from the city council as well as the community as well. So I believe you guys have what you need to probably, move forward there. Okay. So that being said, let's move on to item number 13A under departmental items, which is the COVID-19 update. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, from 2 weeks ago, there have been 31 more positive cases of COVID-19 here in the city of Gardena, bringing our grand total of 6,304 cases. There have also been 3 additional deaths due to COVID-19, bringing the total of 186 deaths in Gardena, which reminds us that while the pandemic is underway and getting under control, the threat is still very imminent to those vulnerable, and reminding everyone to continue to wear masks, continue to social distance, and to, if you can, get the vaccine. Speaking of vaccines, yesterday, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, expanded the EUA, or emergency use authorization, for the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine to include adolescents from 12 to 15 years of age. LA County will offer the Pfizer vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds once the CDC and affirms the FDA recommendation, which should be anytime now. I believe that ends my report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Does any member have any comments or questions? No? Okay. With that being said, let's move on to City Council directors. Does any member of the council have any directives at this time? Let's start with Art.
Questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, can you find out for us, please, what's going on the corner of Marine and Western, southeast corner? I see a couple of, homeless people going inside and out that building still. And, this property has been vacant for all these years now, so halfway, construction. So can you find out what's going on with over there, what's going to happen?
Councilman Cascanian, as this corner, I believe, has been brought up before, I think by yourself, as far as updates. I'm not going to be requiring a second on this because this is just a follow-up on a previous directive. So we'll just give you an update on it.
Thank you.
Any more directors at this time?
I have a, go ahead, Councilman Henderson.
No, you had your hand up first,
Go ahead,
Councilwoman.
Paulette, and then Mark.
I just have some questions. One of my questions is, once a project has been approved, who's responsible for the maintenance of the site? For example, the one right there where the Shakey's Pizza, where the Shakey's Pizza building is there. There's a lot of, I don't know if it's legal dumping, but you know, I sent you pictures, city manager, of the area and that back lot. And it was just coincidence that when some of the neighbors came to complain about that particular spot, I just sent you the pictures. I didn't have anything to do with them coming there. It was just a coincidence. But I'm wondering, and even for the site that I believe that we have approved tonight, right there, El Segundo and Crenshaw, who's responsible for cleaning up that area, or, you know, kind of getting it ready for something? Will it look like that, like it looks right now? And because the Shaky Peace Place has graffiti on the windows, the vegetation's all overgrown. And I'm just wondering once the project's approved, who's responsible for cleaning it up, even before the building and all that gets started? I'm just.
Councilmember Francis, that if the property owner should still be maintaining the property, community development can take care of talking to the owners if we're aware of, if you can pass on what those sites are. Sounds like one of them is the G3 development.
Well, I have pictures, city manager, I sent them all the pictures, and even the new site that was approved this evening, I'm assuming it was approved, correct? The resolution and all that, so that's a go, right there, El Segundo and Crenshaw, where, you know, even in the report talked about the dilapidated building and all that. Who's responsible? And there's all kind of mobile homes parked there. So now that it's been approved, there's a go on that property. Who's going to make sure it looks nice until something actually starts to happen? Whose responsibility is that?
Councilwoman Francis, as Assistant City Attorney Cran has told you, it's the current property owner.
Okay.
So the property has been purchased. Whoever the current property owner is, the person that's responsible, and we will follow up with them with community development and code enforcement as well.
All right, thank you so much. And my other question is, what can we do at city to attract more affordable housing development? Because what's going up now is, I don't know. I don't even know. I've been working for a long time. I don't even know if I could afford some of the new projects that are going up. I could afford again. So is there anything that we can do? And my other question is, you know, about I guess the business taxes that businesses pay once a year. They were due in March. And I know that there was maybe about a couple of hundred businesses that hadn't paid. I was wondering, has there been any surveys to find out if those businesses actually are still in business, or they're kind of taking a wait and see position before I don't want to pay my taxes now if I'm going to go out of business? So is there a way that we can figure out where people are? Because one of my neighbors said that she got a bill from someplace from Fresno or something. Are we still, are we directly taking, or is there somebody else?
No, Councilwoman Francis, I can answer that. The first is just because a business doesn't file for business license doesn't mean we don't know if they're still in existence or not. It could take about a year to see if they're still around and if they're still in existence, or they're just not able to pay the business license in 1 year. We've had some delinquencies in the past, but they are still very much in business. So that's not an indication that they've been dissolved.
I was just wondering if we could figure out where, given our, because of COVID and our economic uncertainty as a city and all that, these kinds of things are kind of, I think they're important. Is there any way we can figure out where they are or reach out to them with some of the programs that we have?
We're currently doing that right now. Economic development team is doing that right now. We're sending out informations, and whatever we find out as far as any businesses that have closed, then we note them. Some of them are obviously pretty easy to spot. Storefront that have closed, we know that. But we are actively, because COVID-19 is still here and we're still actively reeling on the effects of COVID-19, we're still making our way through, the number of businesses that have lost, the business. So we're still working on it, but rest assured, we should have a pretty good idea and a report sometime this year.
All right. And just one last question. With so much housing going up, what about our commercial development, commercial retail development? Because even with, we're bringing in all these new housing developments and all that, but our tax dollars are leaving our city because we don't have the commercial retail development to support them. Is there anything that we can do to say, hey, look at all this new stuff we're going to, it's a great place. We can do the.
We are actively enticing businesses to come to Gardena. A good example is Trader Joe's. We're in constant communication with them, inviting them to, in fact, we do have a scheduled meeting with them. I just don't know off the top of my head when that is, to address some of their concerns and questions as to why they should open up a storefront here in Gardena. Now, as you know, I mean, businesses are closing left and right. So I would imagine, some of the businesses that want to come and open up in Gardena are probably holding off until they figure out some of the more certain things later on. So we don't expect businesses to start opening up now. Hopefully the economy picks up and they start doing that. But we are actively enticing them and giving them incentives and providing some assistance and looking for opportunities here. Would be real estate, some of the incentives as far as economic and financial incentives. We're constantly talking to them and making sure that they are aware that Gardena is a destination here for business and commercial.
All right, thank you.
Any more directives?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Henderson, I wanted to just make a quick statement, and I'll thank staff for their timely response to our requests and turning around answers. A lot of our requests and directives are coming from our community. And so because you guys are able to give us timely answers, we can give timely answers to our community. So I think it really speaks to us being a responsive group, a responsive government. And I just want to appreciate that and remind everybody, Gardena Direct works. If you see graffiti or you see something dumped somewhere, make a quick Gardena Direct submission and everything, and our staff will take care of it. The turnaround time is incredible. I did a Gardena Direct the other day and I had forgotten about it. And then when I drove by that spot again, the graffiti was gone within like the day. So, I mean, this is great stuff, great city, and we kind of got to keep working at it. But I want to thank staff's turnaround time on a lot of our directives and requests.
Councilmember Henderson, I do want to thank you for your comments and your appreciation of our quick turnaround and work. I do want to tell you that when I do receive pictures of, let's say, graffiti and whatnot from yourselves, council members, like what Councilmember Francis has indicated a couple of minutes ago, I do forward that to the appropriate individuals so that they can be logged into Gardena directly, and it does work. We don't have to be the people that take pictures out there. If you see something, if you want to text it to somebody, we can log it into Gardena Direct and we can make sure that those are taken care of.
Absolutely. I'm a witness. You actually do, and I do thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Henderson remind me of something.
Go ahead.
Monday, I went to open up my business and there was a big mattress in front of the business on the parking lot. As a matter of fact, I did call Public Work directly. I jumped, Gardena Direct. I called Kevin Thomas, and within 15 minutes, that mattress was out of my property already. Nice. 15 minutes. So that's lightning, fast lightning, So thank you very much. And my hats off to Public Work people. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any other directives? I have one directive. Mr. City Manager, I'd like to see if we can do kind of a little research or history. As far as, I know a couple of meetings ago, we asked about the hero pay, and there was a follow-up memo that was sent to, I believe, each of us. And I just learned I don't know, maybe about a week or so ago from one of the employees at one of the grocery stores that somebody who claimed to be a representative from the city of Gardena went in there and told them that the city of Gardena, we would not be supporting the hero pay. Now, this has not come before the city council. We asked for a directive and we got information on this, but it hasn't been agendized. There's been no more discussion from the council as a whole. So for anybody to say that they represent the city of Gardena and go into a store and to tell that to an employee, and now that information, for all I know, might be getting disseminated out because now I've heard it. So I'd like to know if we could just do a little research and find out, you know, who from the city is claiming to represent that and say that we're not going to do this, because we don't know what we're going to do. Again, we don't even know if it's going to make it on the agenda, if it's something that's going to move forward, because we did get a memo and that was it. I got a little information that I can give you offline as far as some description of who, you know, they said potentially, you know, what the person looked like. But I just think that, you know, something like that should never be done. So that's my directive. If maybe you could just follow up, maybe in a memo, and see if we can maybe research and find out, you know, who would go and put information like that out. So that's it.
I'll give you a second.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I just want to be clear. Is it in what store is it again?
Oh, I can give you
Albertson?
information
Offline.
offline.
Offline. Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you the information offline. Okay. That's all. Any other directives? Okay, well, with that, let's move on to council remarks. First up is Councilmember Henderson.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Real brief, I attended the SCAG General Assembly. We gave recognition to outgoing President, Vice Mayor of Long Beach, Rex Richardson, and we welcomed in the incoming President, Clint Larimore of the city of Eastvale. So SCAG is looking forward to a prosperous year. President Rex Richardson had a tough year because he had the COVID year, but during that time, SCAG has created a race equity committee, which I'm on, and we're looking to make sure within our 6 counties and all our jurisdictions that we start looking at a lot of our policies that we're developing through an equity lens, make sure that we try to lift all boats because it helps an entire community. So we're looking at that. I also met with the Black Student Alliance, who is working with LAUSD District South and Mike Romero. I just kind of understand where there's some potential agenda linkages between what LAUSD is doing and what the city of Gardena is doing. And then I did stress, as Councilwoman Francis stated, that we do have a pretty good relationship with the actual LAUSD school district. So I wanted to make sure those parents understood that and that they should definitely bring their issues forward. I had to let them understand that there's clear delineation between our responsibility as far as education goes and LAUSD's responsibility of how things go. So that was a pretty robust conversation, and 2 great things that happened in the Henderson family. My young second cousin, Haley Henderson, turned 15. So we were excited about that. So 15 is a wonderful age. And then my son, Mark Henderson II, received his master's degree over the weekend as well. So we're excited about that. Gardena High grad. So he's a Panther versus being a Mohican. Still Gardena High through and through. So we wanted to say Gardena is a great place to get your education and prepare you for the future. And so ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Councilmember Cascanian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, I get the opportunity to meet at the finance meeting committee. And I can tell the city council and everybody watching us, we are in good hands. The numbers looks good, and thank you to everyone that puts effort to keep the numbers good in the city of Gardena. And lastly, not the least, I would like to say a happy Ramadan to all my Muslim friends that I have in the city and near or far. Month of Ramadan started April the 13th and it will end tomorrow. So tomorrow is Eid, they call it. So Ramadan Mubarak and Eid Kareem, they say in Arabic. So I would like to wish all my friends out there Eid Kareem. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually had a very light, did nothing for the last couple of weeks. It was pretty nice. But just a reminder, Cinco de Mayo Committee is having a raffle opportunity, $5 a ticket, and that's to purchase a chance. But the money's going to their scholarships. So if you're listening, you're still up, make sure you call City Hall, Human Parks Recreation, spend a couple of bucks and help the scholarship fund out. And there is a, don't forget to call if you need COVID shots at Johnson Park, and you can do that through Human Services. That is my report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And for myself, I'm actually going to report for the last two meetings because unfortunately I had to leave early after the last meeting due to some business for our card rooms. So since the past month or so now, I attended the funeral services of one of our LA County firefighters who passed away, Brian Lavasser, who had at one time served at the Gardena station and for about 8 years here. So I attended that funeral. I also attended our CCGA meeting via Zoom, my monthly sanitation meeting via Zoom, and also our finance meeting, which is Councilmember Cascanian spoke about. And like he said, you know, about as much as we can afford is the fact to say that we're doing good. And once again, to really thank our finance guys out there. They are doing a tremendous job in making sure that we're going in the right direction and just making sure that our council or our finance committee, as well as our council, is being advised to go in the right direction. And everything that they forecast has been going accordingly, like they said. So I just want to send out another special thanks to them for doing such an amazing job, as well as all of the different groups, the unions, the different department heads who their input goes into our finance meetings as well, because it's a team effort. All the different changes and the things that we ask of our departments to do just to make sure that we can hit all of our financial numbers. So I just want to thank everybody who's part of that financial team, our finance committee meeting, as well as all of our employees here. And Councilmember Henderson had mentioned it earlier about Gardena Direct. I definitely want to encourage as many people to, like you said earlier, to use Gardena Direct. We are seeing more graffiti out there, more properties are not being taken care of. And I know everybody likes to stop us on the street, and I know I have no problem ever entering information in, but we can't always be everywhere. So we definitely want to encourage everybody to get the app on your phone. It takes like less than 10 seconds to take a picture, submit it, and go from there. So there again, this is something that we need the community's help to help us make sure the city looks good. And it's interesting in listening to the housing element, one of the speakers kept referring to other cities as affluent city. In my opinion, Gardena is an affluent city. I like where we're at, where we've gone, and a lot of people are very proud to live in the city of Gardena. So, in my eyes, Gardena is a very affluent city. We're separate from a lot of these other cities, and I think we're doing really good. You can see the difference when you leave other cities and drive into ours. So, we're one of the beautiful cities of the South Bay. So I don't know, I just want to throw that quick comment in. And the other thing I want to mention is right before our last council meeting, we took a picture with this group. And I know this will probably come in backwards, but oh no, maybe not. It says "You Are Enough." Myself and Councilmember Tanaka and a couple of representatives from this organization called "You Are Enough" had a billboard put up over on
Western Rosecrans.
Western Rosecrans. And basically, this was just a sign to let people know that, there are a lot of people, especially during COVID, that are dealing with mental health, and there's so much stress going on right now. And they just want to encourage everybody to let them know that you are enough, that all of you are doing a great job. This is a tough time that we're all going through with COVID, as we're coming out of COVID, being isolated. We're all still doing Zoom here. Things are very different over this past year, and we just haven't been able to have any sense of normalcy. So it was an organization that is actually reaching out to several cities, and every month they're putting up a sign. So if you happen to see this blue sign that says "You are enough," that is what it stands for, to let everybody know that you are enough and you're doing a great job. So I was happy to be a part of that and take a picture. I forget where that picture is going to show up, in the Gardena Valley News or on the city website. I don't know. I don't remember, but it was just great being able to take a picture with them. And I believe it was Connecticut Credit Union as well that they were one of the co-sponsors of that too. So happy to do that. And the last comment I just want to make is this is the month of May. I want to congratulate all the graduates. I know we're starting to see graduations happen from the college level. And as we move into June, you'll start seeing the elementary school, junior high, and high school. So congratulations to all the graduates out there. You know, hey, we're very proud of all of you guys for graduating and making it to that next step. So from us to you guys, congratulations again. So that is my report. And next up is Councilmember Francis.
Thank you. Since we last met, first of all, let me wish, I hope all the mothers had a happy Mother's Day.
That's right.
As my mother would say, every day is Mother's Day. But I hope you enjoyed yourself and had a great day despite all that's going on around us. And also, I attended the California State Democratic Convention. It was the first time in history. It was a historical meeting because it was held on Zoom. And it was a very, very great convention. I enjoyed it. And also, just want to say a little bit more about Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And just to mention that it was introduced in 1977 via Congress as the other commemorative months to observe the first 10 days of May with two important milestones in Asian Pacific American history, which was the arrival of the first two Japanese immigrants in the United States on May 7th, 1843. And let us not forget the contributions of Chinese workers who helped build the Transcontinental Railroad, which was completed in 1869. And then on in 1992, Congress expanded the observance to become a month-long celebration. So particularly during this time, I think it's really important that we celebrate and remember the wonderful contributions that Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have made to our great country, including our first Filipino American, Rob Bota, who's our Attorney General now, and Betty Yee, who is the Vice President of the California State Democratic Party. So, and with that, that is my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a couple of quick announcements here. The first one, it was mentioned earlier during, I forget whose report, the City of Gardena and the Cinco de Mayo Committee will present a Fiesta raffle fundraiser. Let's see, raffle tickets are $5 and for a chance.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, it's an opportunity ticket. It's an opportunity drawing. I know the committee wanted to make sure that we were clear about that. I think there was a new flyer that was posted last week with regards to that, or last Friday, I believe it went out.
Okay, an opportunity flyer. Okay. Opportunity flyer. I'm sorry, an opportunity raffle.
Opportunity drawing. And it's an opportunity ticket.
Okay, opportunity drawing. Thank you. That will take place on Friday, May 28, 2021. This is going to be live on Facebook at 4 p.m. And the ticket information is being sold online, and you can go to www.cityofgardena.org/events. If you have questions that you'd like to speak with somebody on the phone about it, the telephone number is area code 310-217-9537, or you can email us at gardenaevents@cityofgardena.org. And again, that's for the Cinco de Mayo committee. Also, we have a City of Gardena is hosting a blood drive through with UCLA, the UCLA Blood Drive. This will be at Rush Gym, which is located at 1651 West 162nd Street on Tuesday, May 18th. I believe that's next week. And from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And if you like information about that, you can go online at www.ucedonor.com. And let's see. And you can make an appointment at that time and go from there. So that's Tuesday, May 18th from 9 to 2. With that being said, we're going to move on to remembrances. And Mr. City Manager, are there any other announcements that I missed or?
I think we have the COVID-19 vaccination clinic. There's 2 dates.
I'm sorry, I don't have that one in front of me. Do you
Let me
have-
share my screen.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So that's the blood drive. If anyone can
Drive, okay.
Yeah, so that's on Tuesday, May 18th. And then we have 2 dates for vaccine distribution here in the city of Gardena. First one is this Saturday, May 15th at Johnson Park, followed by the second dose of that would be another Saturday, June 12th, 2021. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 2. It's going to be available for all persons 18 years of age and older.
Okay.
They would like to make an appointment, they can do that with the Senior Bureau at 310-217-9552. And they would need to bring some identification. And that's it.
Okay, and I believe there's one more senior event going on, and I don't know why I don't have the flyer. I think I've misplaced it. And I believe that's, Beck, here somebody's around May 27th.
7th.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I believe it's May 27th, Fun in the Sun.
Fun in the Sun.
And you need to be at least 60 or older.
Okay.
And it's going to be right here on the lawn, I believe.
Correct.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay. Fun in the Sun, May 27th. I'm sure we'll have some more information on our social media or website, or if you don't have access to either one of those, call City Hall. I apologize for not having all the information in front of me at this time. So
You must be 16 and older to attend?
60.
That's there, 60.
60, 60.
So I cannot attend it.
No.
No,
I'm sorry, you're too young.
you have to earn it.
You show up, you'll be escorted out, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to remembrances. So at this time, we are going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Stephan Taniform, who was 87 years of age, and he was the beloved member of the Kashmir Gatekeepers Network. We're also going to adjourn in memory of 2 officers, a council member, the Mayor Pro Tem Tanaka had mentioned earlier tonight in prayer, 2 California police officers that had been shot and killed while on duty within the last 24 hours. One was from San Luis Obispo. His name was Luca Bendetti, who was serving a search warrant. The other from Stockton PD, his name was Jimmy N, who responded to a domestic violence call. So we're going to add those 2 names to our adjournment tonight. So with that being said, the Gardena City Council will adjourn to our next regularly scheduled closed session portion of our City Council meeting, which will be at 7 o'clock, followed by the regular City Council meeting at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. So we are adjourned.
Good night.
Night, everybody. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
guys.
everyone.
Good night.
See you later.